the fascinating and ever-changing world of agriculture. Let's hit the road here in Georgia and meet the farmers, producers, makers, and bakers who keep us all fed and keep us coming back for more. Straight ahead at the Fork in the Road.
I came from the mud, there's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree, there's roots where I stand.
Georgia farmers, artisans, merchants, and producers, we depend on these men and women every day of our lives through the choices we make and the food we consume. Their strategy and approach is always shifting, but the end game remains the same: results. Farmers and chefs, both depended on and appreciated pretty much since the first seeds were planted. It can be argued that a chef is better when they understand the farmer and their crop, and a farmer loves to see the creative culinary masterpieces that are often formed from the fruits of their labor. This week we follow a beloved Georgia chef who returns to the Peach State after a few years away to reunite with a few local farmers, meet some new ones, and forge lasting relationships for his next Georgia restaurant in Atlanta's Summerhill district known as Southern National. We begin Chef Nutter's farm journey in Conley, Georgia, just south of Atlanta, where he meets a dedicated dairy goat farmer who is providing tasty local cheeses for this community and beyond. Goats are fun, often quite funny, and absolutely adorable, as Chef Nutter quickly discovered. But he also learned that these goats are talented, and that's much to the credit of Mary Rigdon and the evenly talented team at Decimal Place Farm.
Decimal Place started when I was living in Grant Park on 1/10 of an acre, and my husband and I decided that we could try and live on a farm. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mother for my children, and when we got here I got 2 little goats and I made the cheese in the kitchen. The children and I had a great time. We had the garden right here. One thing led to another, and people kept coming down the driveway wanting the goat milk, and I had to tell them I'm not a dairy, this is just for my family. And I talked to a friend of mine who built the building for me. In 2008 we became a legal grade A dairy, and we've been supported by local chefs like Chef Nutter for the last 15 years. What we milk from Sunday through Wednesday goes to the restaurants, and then what we do on Thursday and Friday goes fresh to the farmers market. We have 40 animals milking twice a day, every day, and that's the amount of milk and cheese we have to make our products.
It's hard to believe that you're like 7 miles from the airport and you just take 2 or 3 turns and it's all this Atlanta traffic chaos. And then you're tucked away back here on these 40 acres.
What are you looking for when you're trying these cheeses?
Without sounding too weird, like a sense of place. A lot of regions, cheeses could be the same recipe, but because of the grass that they chose, or the feed that they chose, the way they treat the animals, the flavor's a little different. Different kind of sweetness, mildly molasses-y there. A lot of the citrus notes are a little higher. The terroir is different. You get the taste of the land. These guys like, we ready to get milked. I like to see what's going on.
Come on in.
Everything's the same but miniature.
Yeah, but see, because I knew that I was going to be doing this, it's built for my height.
It's like perfect.
And I measured my longest goat when I built the place so that they wouldn't fall off the back edge. So it's built for me. The only problem is that when I have taller people work for me, sometimes they hit their head on the ceiling when they're up there.
The story of my life.
Yeah, you know.
Reaching a little differently.
We've dipped every one with a chlorine-based dip, and then we wipe each one, separate paper towel for each side, so that if there's any possibility of contamination, it's not spread. And then the first stream of milk, we make sure it comes out no clumps, no lumps, so that the milk quality is just right. Goat milk is actually naturally homogenized. They're shorter chained fatty acids, and that's why for folks that have the allergies and sensitivities, it's easier for them to digest the goat milk. The milk is coming through the line here, and then it goes down to a large pipe, which takes it to the receiver at the end of the run.
Yep, she ready. Shucking and bucking over here. We're gonna empty that thing you're carrying around. We're gonna help you back. Time for some arugula salad now.
This is round one. We bring in 10 at a time. Everybody goes. There you go. Come on, everybody out. I know, we have visitors. Hurry.
Round two is ready. I think they're wondering what's taking so long.
This is a choice that I made because I believed in an animal that eats poison ivy, honeysuckle, privet, kudzu, and turns it into milk. Once a month, we do a sampling of each animal's milk and weigh that sample so that we know exactly who's giving how much. And those records stand nationally, but also it tells me how the animals are doing. That's Preston. The chickens are housekeeping. They fluff the bedding and eat the bugs. And then we get the eggs just for us here.
This guy got some nice legs on, I see him.
Because we want a year-round milk supply, we have babies born almost year-round. Yes.
Future studs.
These two happen to turn out to be boys, but they'll be future herd sires at another farm. They come out here whenever the weather's going to be good, so they can stretch their legs, get used to nibbling on things, but still be safe. Would you like to go and see the cheese making?
Of course. It's cheese time.
When we're milking, it comes through the pipe, through the wall, and then down into the bulk tank. And then in the morning, I start the first batch of milk, and then we start milking. I started making cheese in the pots because that way, whatever chef called that day, I knew what I was making. So I could make the creamy goat cheese and the feta cheese and balance what the chefs who called for those cheeses wanted.
A lot of times the recipes I try to come up with or dictate what flavor profile I might be looking for, so I'm not like a set in stone type person. But I am interested in this mozzarella thing she's got going on.
This is milk that we put the culture in yesterday, but the rennet did not get added. So what we've got is a very beautiful buttermilk.
What'd you learn today?
I learned that I'm gonna get to taste goat mozzarella. I read about it, I never had any, so I'm looking forward to that.
This is a cheddar.
The cheddar.
We don't do a lot of this, but since you're here today,
Don't make me blush.
we have the feta cheese here. This is the chèvre, the creamy goat cheese, and then a Celeste fig.
Ah,
That way chef can have his creamy goat cheese on that beautiful Celeste fig.
little subtle citrus notes.
And then this one is the mozzarella.
Wow. That was really good. Oh man. It's lighter, I would say. Like an airier, not as heavy. I feel like you could probably eat more of this.
This is the milk,
Smooth.
and then there's your buttermilk.
Buttermilk. Again, not as heavy as a dairy buttermilk.
So it's safe to say that Decimal Place Farm cheese is inked on the menu at Southern National. You could just sense Chef's creative culinary mind churning cheesy new ideas with this impressive variety of flavors. Let's continue our journey with Chef Nutter to stop number 2 in Lyons, Georgia, where, just like the ancient Greeks, a hardworking Georgia couple is also striving to achieve mastery of the olive. Tommy Williams has been farming in the land of lions for decades, learning what can be accomplished in this rich Georgia soil. And after he and his wife and business partner Stephanie spent a few years in Europe learning more about the amazing uses of the olive, this farm took on an entirely new and unique look.
After living in the Middle East for a while in Europe and just loved the olive tree, and then when I saw that some guys in Southwest Georgia were able to grow olive trees, I had to plant them. So we planted them about 5 acres, not really knowing much about what to do except that I knew how to farm. Then they made olives, and then we won an international award with it, so then we really got the fever. These olives are Arbequina. It's a Spanish variety. It's a very common variety, and it's good for high density. But it's more delicate than some of the olives from, say, Italy that will have a more pungency. We're fortunate to have just a touch of pungency, but on the whole, a mild oil.
And sometimes the flavor does vary year to year based on what percentage of different olives we have in it. This year we had a lot of Koroniki that produced well, so there is a little bit more pungency, a little bite. When you swallow the oil, you can kind of feel that peppery finish on it.
What we're hoping is to find an ideal variety for Georgia that makes a bigger olive, that makes a good flavored oil, and it makes a lot of oil per ton.
And does well with the climate too.
Yeah, it'd be nice for us to have several different varieties. When we do tastings, people could tell the difference. The one thing that people can tell the difference of, if they've never had fresh oil, it's nothing like you're buying at Walmart. It is totally different. It's not blended with old oil or been sitting on the shelf a long time. It's definitely better.
Chef Nutter knew all about this tasty Georgia product before making his journey to Lyons, but getting a hands-on, eyes-on, and taste-on experience was definitely a feast for the senses.
So Chef, these are trees that I pruned back. I've got a harvester that goes over the top of them.
Okay.
So you got to prune them down.
Prune, and then you get a nice gentle shake, and they kind of
come off into the bottom, and then are augured up into the top. You can't eat olives off the tree. If you mash that,
look at that oil come out of there.
Feel the oil in it. So we have a few different varieties of olives. This is a Greek variety here. This is called a Koroniki. These are Arbequina. You see the olives a different shape. It's more of an oval shape.
Without the point at the bottom.
Yeah, and it's a bigger olive. What I like to do is just squeeze a few of them and then just...
Do some lotion.
Yeah.
There you go.
What I've discovered is my best fruit is made on the end of the row or where are missing some trees, which tells me that the trees on the end of the row are getting more air, more sun, and so I'm going to take out every third row and every other tree.
Okay.
I think Georgia is going to have a better chance of growing olives if we do the traditional planting rather than high density. We're going to go look at the mill.
The milling process?
Right. For olive oil to keep for several years, you got to keep it away from oxygen.
Okay.
So this tank has a floating lid that will sit down on whatever the level is, and then you take this little pump and pump up an inner tube around that so it keeps the air away from the oil. I filter all my oil because new oil tastes really good for a few days, but then it starts going bad. And if you filter it, you don't have any problems with it. The other thing we do, you put the 2 bottles on there. That right there puts liquid nitrogen in the bottle, and that when the bottle fills up, it displaces all the oxygen. In a dark bottle like that, it should keep 3 years. We also do flavored oils. This is basil, rosemary, lemon, and garlic.
So after the tour, it was time to taste. So Tommy and Stephanie fired up the pizza oven, began kneading the dough to create a perfectly imperfect circle, drizzled the terra dolce back and forth, sprinkled a few extra seasonings, and let Chef begin his experience.
One of the things that we see a lot is people don't really understand what good olive oil is like because they've maybe grown up tasting what we consider bad olive oil. So we try to educate people when they come out to the farm. This is cold pressed, extra virgin. This is what it's supposed to taste like. So we're gonna try this, just milled last week. So what you wanna do is get it to come across your palate, sipping it up.
Similar to wine.
Very much similar to wine, kind of let it go around your mouth and then give it a swallow. And you should feel a little bite.
Yeah, small bite, not much.
Nice peppery bite, right. It is milder than some of the other oils you will find in different parts of America. We attribute that to the soil, the climate, different things like that. We made some pizza bianca here, and we have some fig and blackberry. The blackberries came from across the street in our garden over there. And this is plain oil, and this is
Herbs de Provence. Eat that all day.
yeah, you don't need anything else, right? So we eat olive oil pretty much every day. It's got a lot of great properties, as you are, I'm sure, familiar with it. So we're trying to extend life a little bit by enjoying the olive oil.
We're committed to make it work, but we have to find olives that produce more tons to the acre, more gallons per ton, good flavored olives.
We're finally at that place where we're not just trying to get to the next year's crop. We are actually able to try new varieties and try different growing and planting techniques and different pruning techniques as well.
We hope to discover the tree that works for Georgia so we can grow the whole industry.
And still maintain good quality.
Yeah.
So now that we have the oil and the cheese, it's time to appease the chef's palate with a variety of veggies. Off to Mansfield to discover the farming world of Love is Love. It's a farming cooperative with a mission in mind. Joe Reynolds and Judith Winfrey believed a carbon-neutral farm like this one that provides for their community and beyond was possible, and it appears they were correct. They have a dedicated team of partners who are all in with them to help this farm grow through farming methods they believe are best for the future.
My name is Demetrius Milling. My position here is worker-owner at Love is Love Cooperative Farm. Love is Love Cooperative Farm was really started in 2008 by Joe and Judith in Douglasville, Georgia. And after a few years, they moved on to a property in Decatur. There was around 2.5 acres, and we served the CSA, restaurant customers, and a little bit of wholesale clients. But we were really limited by our capacity on space. So we were approached by an opportunity with the Conservation Fund, and they have a program called the Working Farms Fund. And that fund has the goal of buying farmland in metro areas to conserve that farmland as cities grow, to have farmland saved in perpetuity.
Chef Nutter worked with these talented farmers at Love is Love when his former Atlanta restaurant was looking for fresh veggies, and now he has returned to tour this new farm to learn about the daily farm operations and the tasty crops in season at Love is Love.
Love is Love have got themselves a bigger location, and being able to help chefs like myself and everybody else in the city that uses them, as well as home cooks, all that good stuff.
That recognition from chefs about our high quality really inspired us to take the opportunity with the Working Farms Fund to expand. We wanted to have the opportunity to provide for a longer period of time and be on the menu a little bit longer for chefs in a more permanent spot and provide that quality and that certainty.
Demetrius, he got hired right when I left the city, and so it's kind of cool to see they expanded, and he's showing me around some of their staples that they love to grow, and they grow very well. And then a few new items because they have more space. I'm ready to use my imagination.
We're starting all the seeds here in the greenhouse. A couple of things get started outside, more of your radishes, your turnips and beets, but all the leafy greens get started here.
Okay.
And it also, what it does, it allows us to get a jump start on the season with it being in here, and we can still be growing outside.
Right.
Yeah, Russell right now is harvesting that sheet pan of pea shoots. They're about 3 inches tall, and that's when they're real tender. And so we cut them at 3 inches. They were seeded around 2 weeks ago, so it's a really quick turnaround for that crop.
Do you guys do any like a rotation of microgreens you might do, or you
we do.
Post up? Well, this is what we're going to do if you're interested.
Exactly, we do have a rotation. So mainly it's basil, kale, mizuna, arugula, red mustard, and then we have these pea shoots. Those are kind of our go-tos.
I see we got tomatoes starting.
Yeah, so these are our late crop of cherry tomatoes.
That's like my favorite smell.
All the stuff on your fingers when you pick them.
I see some bok choy, one of my favorite veggies.
Yeah, so what we're looking for in the bok choy is a lot of size right here in the middle part. What is your favorite part of the plant to be using?
I like the stock because it can take a lot of flavor and it can take a lot of high heat as well, and the delicateness of the leaves. It's like two textures.
When we worked with you previously, we're around 2.5 acres. Now that we have this lease with the Conservation Fund, we've expanded to 6 acres, and we look to expand even more. We have around 7 more acres we can expand into.
Eggplant.
Yes. We only grow the long Japanese type. We don't grow like the Black Beauty, kind of like your
big guys.
American eggplant. So we just grow the longer type of eggplant.
They are kind of similar in flavor, but these right here could be a center of the plate thing where the big one is more of an ingredient type of thing.
And we want, you know, our customers to feel like they can take this and add it in a dish, or even make it like a side on a dish, and it's manageable instead of a commitment to a big, large eggplant. What you got there, Chef?
I have the world famous okra, the life sustaining, love it or hate it. You're either rocking them or you're not.
Okra loves sunshine, okra loves heat. We got both of those, and loves the south.
And the location on the field, you gave it the maximum amount of sun.
Yes, highly underrated rock.
Highly underrated.
The mission is simple, but that in no way means that implementation is easy. However, it is obvious that the team here loves what they are doing and truly believe in the why. We now head a few miles to the capital city of Atlanta, where Chef Duane Nutter has gathered his fresh ingredients from all the farms and joins forces with another great Georgia chef. So now that Chef has gathered his veggies from Love is Love, his olive oil from Terra Dolce, and the tasty goat cheese from Decimal Place Farm, he joins Georgia-grown executive chef Holly Shute in her kitchen, so we can all discover just what was brewing in his culinary mind as he toured the great farming state of Georgia.
So what you got here, Chef?
Well, today I'm working on an idea.
All right.
I got some Japanese-style eggplant from Love is Love Farm.
What did you drizzle on that?
I went to the farm as well that does the Georgia olive oil, Terra Dolce.
Yeah.
And then you brought me some salt.
That's
this
the
guy?
Campfire from beautiful Briny Sea right here in Atlanta.
Oh, this stuff is so awesome. I'm a big smoked salt situation person. I got my cast iron in here real nice and hot, and I just wanted to simply just blister them with some of this Georgia olive oil and this campfire salt.
And what are you going to do with them once we get them out of the pan all nice and blistered?
Well, you showed me some of this bourbon fig jam.
Yeah.
And I also went to Decimal Farms, and I got some of her goat cheese, and I mixed it in with some fermented black garlic.
Those are smoking up nice.
It's smoking up nice, getting tender. I'm loving this. Just go with a little touch more olive oil, and then I want to just give them a little flip since we're going in this pan here.
Are you going to do all that fancy chef stuff? And
Oh no, we're just going to just dollop. Nothing too fancy, just enough so you can get in there and you get some goat cheese with every little bite of the eggplant. And then I got the bourbon fig jam. I'm just gonna dot a few little pops.
that's going to be awesome with the goat cheese.
There's that chef
There's
stuff
that
you're looking for.
fancy. I see. I knew you couldn't. You could not do it.
And then I'm gonna give a nice little dollop on top. And with my Georgia pecans. Pecans, some nuts.
Beautiful.
I'm gonna call that blistered eggplant with campfire salt, black garlic, goat cheese.
So next time you want a tasty treat in Atlanta full of fresh local ingredients, swing by the Summerhill district and visit this friendly and entertaining chef. He'll keep you laughing with his quick wit and friendly disposition, and he's always thinking up great new culinary ideas with a little help from his creative farming friends. I'm David Zelski. See you at the next Fork in the Road.